I think that everybody in a common sense way thinks that there are such things as objects, like tables and chairs and stones, planets, and that there are also such things as events, such as a conversation, an election, a war, so forth. So that both notions are present in everyone's mind. Now, in the vast majority of Western philosophy, it has been supposed that events are to be explained in terms of objects and their relationships. And so, in the modern period especially, the idea was that matter in motion is the fundamental reality. And motion simply means change of relative location among the material entities. Now, that's certainly not the only metaphysics that has been present in Western thought, but it would illustrate where what I'd call substance metaphysics leads. The matter was analyzed into atoms, and the atoms were supposed to be, by definition, indivisible little lumps of matter. So it's a purely materialistic notion of what substances are, and finally a purely atomistic notion of what substances are. Then events are byproducts of these changes of location. Well, a great deal of science was developed with some such model in mind. Now, in the 19th and 20th centuries, that model has ceased to work well in science. Of course, the atom was broken up, so it's no longer an atom. We still use the term atom for what used to be thought to be indivisible. The issue then is not, of course, whether it's divided or not, but what it is divided into. And the first answer that people gave to that was that when you broke it up into particles. And the notion of a particle has very much the same feel to it as the notion of an atom. And some aspects of the behavior of these subatomic entities can be understood in terms of particles, but I think most of us know now that it doesn't work for all aspects. So physicists introduced the notion of waves, and since these entities have some properties that are wave-like and some that are particle-like, sometimes they call them wavicles. Well, I think the paradoxical character of this end result has led some physicists to say maybe there is a better way of thinking about this, and instead of saying that it's broken up into entities that are in some ways like particles, in some ways like waves, both of which come out of substance thinking, maybe we should suppose that what we really have are events, happenings, occurrences, and it's patterns of these happenings and occurrences that jointly give us both particle-like and wave-like characteristics. Now, most physicists are not very interested in this kind of metaphysical question, and therefore, as long as they can work out two sets of mathematics, one that deals with the particle-like characteristics and one that deals with the wave-like characteristics, they are content to allow the substance notions to remain, or else just simply detach themselves from any question of that sort. Mathematics and prediction exhaust their interest. But it is not the case that contemporary physics really gives conceptual support to the continuation of the primacy of objects, or say material objects, in relationship to events. A more plausible account can be given if we assume that what we've really got are events, and that finally, therefore, what we think of as objects are patterns of events, rather than events being manifestations of objects in motion. Now, this is not a proof. It's simply saying that the reasons for so long thinking that intellectual activity worked best if we thought in terms of substance metaphysics, or the primacy of atomic objects, are gone. And the alternative possibility of taking events as primary is at least a legitimate exploration. It's my opinion that it's gone well past that, that it's quite clear we can make more sense of the natural world if we give primacy to events. We have a somewhat similar situation with respect to our own experience. We are inclined to suppose that because our language usually highlights the pronoun, we say, I see the cat, or something of this sort, that the primary realities are the I and the cat, and the seeing is a temporary relationship which doesn't have any ontological status. So we have the I refers to a subjective substance, and the cat refers to one of these complicated objects made up of atoms. But if we engage in close phenomenological analysis, the I is extremely difficult to discern as something outside of, underlying the flow of experience. And Hume pointed this out. Kant could rescue the self only by positing it in some way. He couldn't actually discover it. So there's no empirical or phenomenological support for the notion that there is a substantial self. When we realize that, then we can be appreciative of the same discovery by the Buddhists 2,500 years ago, and the very elaborate, thoroughgoing reflection which they engaged in, formulated many schools. The fact that one moves to process doesn't mean there are no further issues to be debated. There are just as many types of process thinking as there would be types of substance thinking. But I'm simply saying, I think if one reflects either about the objective substances or the subjective substances, one finds they are imposed upon the evidence rather than actually found within the evidence. And once that's clear, then it becomes possible to say, well, perhaps a momentary experience is the reality, not a secondary characteristic of something that is unknowable and stands outside of experience. Well, an experience is an event. And in fact, it's not possible for us to think of what an event is without attributing to it some kind of experiential character. So the direction of the speculation, which Whitehead and Hartshorne have encouraged us to take, is to think that everything is finally made up of events, and every unit event has an experiential character. That is, it has both a subjective and an objective aspect. It is something in and for itself, and it also includes others within it.